Good afternoon. Today we have lined up a session to go through one of Singapore's more popular practice management systems for law firms, and that would be CoreMatter. CoreMatter is used by many firms to help them track their client and matter information, time and disbursement entries, as well as invoicing. Now, in addition to that, CoreMatter is one of the few systems that embeds the accounting and GST aspects of the business, helping you avoid having to purchase a third-party accounting tool. Now, regardless whether you are a firm that currently uses another practice management system and you're considering to maybe adopt CoreMatter, or you might be in a firm now where possibly in the near future you might be wanting to strive out on your own to form your own practice, our goal for you today is to have a feel of the platform, have an understanding whether it fits the firm's needs and whether it's a pleasant experience to use. And if the correct boxes are ticked, to allow us to have the opportunity to plot the path forward in terms of implementation and adoption. My name is Daniel, and I'm part of the Verlata Singapore team, and we carry out many CoreMatter projects for many of us here. Now, Verlata, we specialize in the implementation, delivery, training, and support of legal tech platforms like CoreMatter. And we focus on CoreMatter, practice management and accounting system, as well as NetDocument, a cloud-based document and email management system. Now, before I dive into the platform, I have five points that I want to go through today. The first one will be conflict check, creation, elite entries, reports, and accounting. The one that I'm most excited about is the middle one there on creation, where it's a speed challenge, where I will have to create a client, create a matter, generate a tax invoice, all under 5 minutes. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dive into CoreMatter and let's get all those 5 points answered. I'm logged in as Lauren, fictitious person in a fictitious firm, and today she's looking for a matter. She logs into CoreMatter and she sees her recent matters. If a matter that she's looking for is not in this recent matters page, at the top right in the search bar, she can always search whether she remembers the client name or maybe a car number, plate number, or possibly any part of the matter number or file reference number. Whether it's a client name, matter description, any reference number, you can search for it. You can also have a list of the entire matter listing, and this will show that for this fictitious firm, we have over 1,000 matters. But I want to then filter and say, I'm looking for a matter where Lauren is the partner in charge and family law is the practice area, as well as only matters that are open, not those that have been closed long time ago. And from a list of 1,000, we have that list that respects all these 3 parameters. Now, if I go to my invoices, similarly, I may want to know at any one point in time how much is outstanding across all my clients, all my matters, all my invoices. And I get that information quite quickly. I can also filter by a certain client, and this client might have multiple matters and invoices with us. I know that they owe us a total of this sum. I can also sort this information to show me which invoice has the largest outstanding amount, some of which might have been partially settled as well. So the first function that I wanted to go through was actually the conflict check. Conflict check can also be looked at as I need to search throughout my entire system wherever this name, this address, this reference, this figure, any part, it will look throughout the entire system. Now, one thing that CoreMatter does is it looks throughout the entire system. It doesn't just look at client and matter information. It will then show, in this case, wherever David appears. Now, David would appear in multiple matter references. David could also be a client contact, where the client is a company or an entity, and David is a contact person. David could also have been mentioned because he is a supplier somewhere, or mentioned in a time entry in an activity. So it looks through the entire database of CoreMatter and returns you those results in an organized, comprehensive, and quick manner. You can also download all the information in one piece of paper so that if you need to file that away as reference for at that point in time, you can do so. Now, the next task that I have is to be able to create a client, matter, and generate a tax invoice within 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first create a client. I'm under the clock. So clients, I'm going to create a new one. And I am going to create a new client called NextBridge Finances. And then I'm going to put in the partner in charge, who is Jillian. I'm going to put in the address, so 1 Home Street. Now, some of our clients may have more than one address. So let's say Fleet Road, and this is the second address. It's up to you how many addresses is applicable. Same thing with contact people. So we have a Peter Yo, and we do not know anything other than his email address. And we also have a Sarah Willis. And all we have is her phone number. Okay, so that's me creating a new client. Next of which, we are going to create a new matter. So just go to create matter. This is the client. Put in the matter description. Now just note that I'm putting, there are many fields. I'm not filling in every field, some of which are not necessary, but if you do have that information, put it in. Stratos Logistics. And this is a dispute matter. And the solicitor in charge is Fiona. And that's it. Okay, this is a Singapore dollar matter. Next, who has access? All these people submit. So I've created a new client. I've created a new matter. And let's do some work. So I'm going to create a few activities. I'm going to create a few disbursements. Now, CoreMatter does have templates. So sometimes where the work is quite repetitive and the items are very standard, you can use a template to mass generate and auto-generate all of this. But in this case, let's not do that. I'm just going to create a few entries. So let's say we had a discussion and met with X to discuss options. And we did this for 3.5 hours. We also had a site inspection where we charge a flat fee rather than based on time. And we would then fill in certain things that we always need to fill in. Some of the amounts can be defaulted as well. Now, not only did Lauren work on this matter, Jillian did as well. And she had some reviewing of emails, and she spent 1 hour doing so. Okay. Now for the disbursements, let's just put in a few as well. So I'm going to have some overseas calls. And let's say this was $15. And I had a few search fees, whereby certain amounts which can be pretty standard are already pre-filled in for me. Now, one thing to note before I generate an invoice, whereby I go to upbuild items, is this fake firm is GST registered. So it would have GST references. For those firms that are not GST registered, you will not see all those GST components. Okay. So part of our work is to help you bring in all your existing clients and matters, bring in all your activity listings, your practice areas, your users, and work all of that out. Now, for NextBridge Finances, we know there's a Peter, there's a Sarah. Let's attention to both. And we also know that NextBridge Finances has more than one office address. Let's pick the second one. At the bottom of our invoice, you may have different different bank accounts, different currencies. I'm going to choose the one that has Jennifer's signature. And the last one is a major decision. So don't worry that you see a long list here. I want you to focus on these two. One is called all items, where if I select this, it will show every single line item on the invoice, every single line item amount, and sum that entire amount together. Now, some firms may like this because they need to be this show this amount of detail for their clients. Now, some don't. So if you do not want to show so much detail, maybe you just want a narration. So let's say for me, I have a very short narration today, blah, blah, blah. And let's say summary 1. I just want the invoice to show this. Now, I may have another challenge where what if we have an agreed fee of 7,000, a cap, a ceiling? Now, I can't charge this amount. So I'm going to write down our fees to $7,000. And in this case today, I'm quite happy. I want to actually reflect a discount on the invoice as well. Okay, so when I submit, it'll generate a draft invoice for me. And depending on how your role, your function in the firm, which is all very customizable, you may then have the ability to confirm to change this from a draft invoice into a text invoice. Okay, so let's just have a look, see whether CoreMatter has listened to us. And yes, it's not showing all those line item amounts. It's not showing 8,300 or 7,000, as well as the discount. So I think it's done a pretty good job. And let's confirm it becomes a tax invoice. It posts all the accounting and GST entries, and I can then send this invoice off to that client. I think it's quite neat. Now, what if we need a breakdown? We need to then show or reflect as a schedule, an attached schedule, who did what and when, because this doesn't really show us all of that. So we go to billing worksheet, and CoreMatter does track all that information for you. So quite a number of firms that I know, they actually quite like this, where they use an extract of this to give that detail to clients that either need it or the firm needs to show that amount of detail. It also summarizes. So if there are several lawyers or fee earners working on that matter, it gives you a table of how much time in total and their rate to give that total sum. Now note that it's giving you the raw amount rather than the net of the write down or any discounts that were given. Okay. Now if you go back to the matter, we went from creating the client, creating the matter, creating our activities, disbursements, and now we have an invoice that is sitting here of which nothing has been received. The entire amount is outstanding. Okay, so I did that in 6 minutes. So yeah, I think you can do the same. So this is a system that works alongside you. And once you get the hang of it, it is very, very quick. Speaking of which, I want to go to the next portion of this segment, which will be talking about ELIT entries. Now, I know that in our work, some of us, we do accumulate a large number of submissions and filing fees, and having to carry these over from, let's say, ELIT into your billing system. Often I hear that it's a double-handed process. You need to then key in into whichever system you have, all the filing, the court filing fees, ELIT fees, etc. And it takes a long time. It's very laborious. It's not fun to do and subject to mistakes. And that would look something like this. Okay, so let's say from ELIT, we have extracted the report and we have X number of entries that someone, let's say today it's me, I now have to key into my system because we need to recover these amounts from our client and we need to invoice them. Now for CoreMatter, what you can do, there are a few conditions and criteria that you need to meet, but what you eventually is that you can go to unbilled. Okay, before I do so, sorry, let's go to disbursements here. And you notice that I have 2 disbursements that I have just invoiced. And I'm going to add in a whole chunk of ELIT entries. Okay, so let's put it in this one here and upload. Okay, we just got 60 entries created without too much bother. So just now we had 2 entries and now we have quite a number more. So all of this information was imported in, which is excellent. Okay, so that's how the ELIT function works. The idea is that you extract from ELIT, from Crimson Logic, and then you upload into CoreMatter. Okay, again, there are a few criteria. Now, during the training portion, we will bring attention to those criteria, and I feel that is majorly worth it because the amount of time that you save to get all of these imported in is massive. The next 2 sections are reports and accounting. Now, reports, as much information as you put into a system. I think for CoreMatter, a lot of people enjoy it because it's very easy to insert, to create your entries, but it also needs to give you back that information, whether it's I need to extract it out or I need insights, I need to take actions based on the data, whatever it tells me, I need to get information out. So one thing that CoreMatter does, which I quite like, is that the ability to take information out is very, very easy. So sorry, it's on another screen. So taking it out, it just comes out very, very quick. Now, if we go to our reports, there are many, many reports, but I'm going to start off with the dashboard, which gives us a helicopter view of how the firm is doing. Now, not everyone should have access to this area because the information can be quite sensitive. But yeah, you can always see at an overview level, what is the revenue by partner? And if I go down, who are the people, which are the clients that owe the firm money, which matters are generating the most amount of revenue. And if I scroll down slightly lower, this one is where it gets really, really serious, especially for this firm here, debtor aging summary, which in short means there's an amount of money that is owed from the clients to the firm. let's say X amount. However, depending on how long outstanding those invoices are would relate to how serious it is. So for this firm here, a large portion of their invoices, the outstanding amounts are long outstanding, more than 120 days, which is a red flag. Now, based on this red flag, I would then want to know which clients is this prevalent throughout our entire practice, or is it to do with one large matter of ours and we are in control of it? So I'm going to use a debtor ledger aging report as an example to show you how CoreMatter has designed its reporting function. At the top here, these are filters. So for example, if I go to practice area and I only want to look for information relating to matters under the dispute resolution practice area, I would filter and tick. If I don't, it will show across the board, every single invoice across the entire firm. Now I want to bring your attention to the group by function. So by clicking on clients here, this will set client as the master. And what I mean by that is it will then set client number one, all the matters under that client and all the invoices, and then client number two, and so forth. Okay, so it's setting client as the master as of today. Okay, let's just give it a few seconds to load. It is quite a decent amount of information. All right. And all of the reports in CoreMatter, you can extract it out through PDF, Word, or Excel, majority of them. Okay. Now let's have a look. So I've set client as the master. So this is the first client, and this client has one matter and one invoice, of which it is outstanding for a couple of months. Okay. So the reason why it took quite some time to load is because it was 103 pages. Now the second client here has multiple matters, some of which have multiple invoices, and a lot of them are long outstanding. So this is very good information. But if we were in a room, we are having a meeting, going through our firm's finances, and we go to each person and say, hey, is this your client? No, no, no. So it's good information, but might not be relevant to every single person. And this is where it makes sense to group the information by matter partner. It becomes more relevant. So we're setting matter partner as the master. So then it will set matter partner number one, these are your matters, these are your invoices outstanding. And then it becomes much more relevant to each person because each person has, you have many invoices that are long outstanding, or you have very few that would reflect on the next action. You need to make sure you get in contact with your clients. You need to do something about it. All right. So same information, but highly more relevant now if we are looking at the people in charge. Okay, so as we look at Benjamin and say, okay, a lot of your invoices are long outstanding. Do something about it. But if we go down to the second person, Casey, she may have a few, but majority of them, not too many. So maybe only this list here. So we are highly aware. Now, the last point I want to make is about accounting. I'm not going to show too much, but CoreMatter is a fully functional accounting and GST system. Now, this is very valuable, especially for the smaller firms or even the larger firms. But let's talk about the smaller firms first, where they often engage in external bookkeeper. And it's always beneficial to have one system where both parties are operating in the same environment so that you don't have to transfer data over, or can I have that report and you have to wait for someone to send it over to you. So let's say if I am a managing partner of a firm, I technically would have access to be able to see my accounting positions because they're all here. And the accountant or the bookkeeper can also operate in the same system without possibly having to double handle multiple systems. CoreMatter is also very compliant in terms of its GST as well as client account reporting. So if I just go to the GST side first, let me just take the last quarter. And it presents it in the F5 format. You can also get a breakdown of all the amounts. So every single line amount, you can get the full-fledged line-by-line breakdown as well. Okay. All right, everyone, that is me going through the 5 components. And there were just a few questions that came up that we had someone help us put them together. So we have 3 questions. And the first one is, okay, it's a good question. Does CoreMatter integrate with any DMS? So DMS was document management system. For firms in Singapore, we integrate CoreMatter with Net Documents. And for those firms, yeah, it's a full-fledged solution. You have CoreMatter, you have Net Documents. It functions as the entire spine of the firm, where any client and matter that you create in CoreMatter automatically creates a workspace. We call it a workspace, or you can think of it as folders in Net Documents, and then you can have everything organized. It's very secure. It's very organized, and that is a great system to consider as well. Okay, so when you talk to us about CoreMatter, you can also ask us, would net documents be applicable at the firm as well? Okay, I think we have a second question, and it's, all right, how long does it typically take? Now, this is a question that you can never really give an answer. There are quite a number of factors that would affect it. Now, the first one, let's start from the easiest scenario first. Let's say you are someone setting up a new firm. You are brought across a small number of clients and matters that have come across with you, and essentially you're starting afresh. Accounting wise, there's nothing because you're starting afresh, and that could be very, very quick. I would say give yourself 2 weeks. There'll be a few things that we need to decide together as we show you CoreMatter and make certain decisions. But in terms of setting it up, training, as well as getting started, it can be very, very quick. Now, the second scenario would be, what if you are maybe a slightly larger firm? Let's take a 10 to 20 user firm, and you've been using another practice management system on the market for 6 years. So you would have quite a lot of client matter information. You would have accounting information. You would have different workflows that you would have in your current system. Now, that may take a bit longer. We usually like to be quite prudent. We would provision maybe 1, 2, 3 months, because there'll be phases where you will need to extract that information from that existing practice management system. On our end, we will need to look at that system, that list of information. We will need to check for completeness, accuracy, consistency. There are some systems where you take the information out and report one is inconsistent with report two. There would also be quite a lot of accounting information that is usually needs to be handled. So an existing firm, you would typically want to align your transition and switch over, let's say at the month end or at the end of the GST quarter or the financial year. So there are those considerations there. But typically we do as fast as we can. So depending on the firm, depending on the size, depending on the amount of information, how clean the data is, you would expect for any normal CoreMatter project to be across a couple of months. Okay, but it can be very quick, so it depends. Do you help migrate data from our current system, and how long does it take? So this question is very similar to the previous one, and the answer is yes. We do our best to bring across as much information as you can provide us. So just a reminder here that the responsibility and onus would be on you, the firm, to extract the information from your existing system. Now, if you have not done that before, I would always recommend, regardless whether you go with CoreMatter or not, to just understand, are you able to extract the information yourself? Because there are some systems where it can be quite challenging, or you might need to engage someone to help you do so. On the other hand, CoreMatter, if you do one day need to take information out, it is quite easy. So you saw my example of the reports function. Client listing, meta listing, just extract, it'll just take out everything for you. Okay. Now, yeah, a lot depends on the cleanliness of the data, how consistent it is, and whether the firm wants to do a cleanup. Example of a cleanup would be, let's say we have a list of clients where, typical example, OCBC, Overseas Chinese, the full name. Sometimes you have the same client or what looks like the same entity, but spelled differently, and taking out multiple clients. Sometimes firms will say, let's try and consolidate, let's try and clean it up before we move to CoreMatter. So, okay, so it's up to the firm. And yeah, I think those are the 3 questions that we had today. Now, just a reminder about Verlata. We're not just based in Singapore. We are based across multiple countries. So Australia, New Zealand, UK, Japan, Singapore, and Malaysia. And we carry out the end-to-end implementation experience. Okay, so many of our team members have either practiced before or have worked in law firms. Some of us have different experiences as well. Some of us have been former bookkeepers or accountants or very technical people who develop new applications or work on automation. So we have a whole varied skill set from Verlata, and we have been around for quite a number of years. Okay. And before I sign off, these are two QR codes that allow you to find out more information. So the one at the bottom, if you want to find out more, you want us to come by, have a more intimate session with you, talking about CoreMatter, NetDocument, or anything else, feel free to reach out to us. And at the top, we do have a paper that is about how to scale your firm in Singapore. Okay, so my name is Daniel. I am from Verlata, Singapore. It was a privilege to go through CoreMatter with you today. And thank you so much. I hope to meet many of you soon one day. Thank you so much. Bye.